Hi, I'm Robin Schultz with the Hoover Channel. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you'll always know when we have a new video coming up.
I'm going to throw it over to the mayor because he and Mr. McClinton have a event to go to for the Finley Award banquet. So,
Yes,
Mayor.
thank you, Mr. President. We've got to give a few comments to all the Finley Award winners tonight. Big crowd at the Finley Center at 6 o'clock. Also want to invite everybody. The Stallions reached out to us this week, and they're doing a fan fest tomorrow between 4 and 6 at the Brock's Gap Brewery. A.J. McCarron, the new coach, will be there. Some of the players, and a lot of their fan base comes from Hoover, so they're excited to come. They're actually going to be doing, I'm not sure which elementary school tomorrow, but they're going to one of the elementary schools with bouncy houses and stuff, and the school system is very happy because tomorrow's the last day before spring break, so they're looking for those kids to do something. So if everybody's invited out there tomorrow, I hope some can attend. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Let's see. Resolution number 878726, approving alcohol license for 5-Star Concessions, doing business as 2026 Regions Tradition Golf Tournament. Ms. Harris, any issues with this? Very good. Getting ready for the busy time of the year.
I'm probably going to bring up that we need Ms. Lovell to represent the council during the Pro-Am.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we're going to need you to get Ms. Lovell on a team.
All in favor, say aye.
All right, Resolution 878826, declaring that certain personal property is not needed for public or municipal purposes and directing the disposal. Mr. Moose.
Evening, Council, Mr. President. This is our annual process of getting rid of old hardware, computers, servers, docking stations, those types of things. We've got about 5 pallets worth of equipment. I think pictures were included of some of that stuff. All of the hard drives have been removed from the equipment, so they'll be properly disposed of and destroyed in a separate process. All this used to get sent to auction, which nobody buys, and it goes to the landfill. Now we actually send it to a recycling company, and depending on the types of materials they can get out of it, we actually get part of that money back, which offsets our cost of getting it recycled.
Very good. Any comments or questions for Moose?
Is that a local company?
It is. They're right over here off of,
Oxmoor?
well, it's right off of Lorna. I can't think of the little side road over there, but they're right over there.
And so we don't pay for them to take the equipment?
We don't pay to what?
We don't pay them, they end up paying us?
Well, it depends on what it is. If they can recycle, if they can get some of the metals out of it, sometimes we get a check back. Sometimes we write a check for about $500. So it just depends on what the material is and what they can get out of it.
All right. Moose, you have the next one as well. Resolution number 878926, authorizing the mayor to execute a contract with AT&T Enterprises.
Yeah, so this goes back to the NCFI expansion. We had the fiber lines coming into the building. We had copper coming into the building. Everybody's moving away from copper. I think you as a body approved the cost from pulling new fiber in. The cost to pull copper in would be more than double that, approximately $60,000. So we're not going to do that. We're actually going to replace the existing POTS lines or plain old telephone lines with a fiber solution inside of there. And so our cost for that is, I think it was in the sheet there, but it's about $35 a piece for each of the lines per month, which is about what we're paying for them right now. So it's almost a wash for that, just to change the technology.
Very good. Any comments or questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to resolution number 879026, authorizing the mayor to execute a service agreement with Firehouse Ministries, for emergency shelter services.
Mr. President, Council, thank you. This is just one of our annual service agreements that the Firehouse Ministries was late getting back to us. It's one we do every year, and they provide some bed space for us for our homeless population when needed. Again, it's a contract we do every year with them.
Very good. Great organization. Any comments or questions for the chief?
No, I did not. I didn't say kickback.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to resolution number 879126, authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Schultz Engineering Company for floodplain management and flood mitigation grant program services. Mr. Gilbert.
Mr. President, Council, this is a resolution to renew our contract with Shoal Engineering for floodplain management program. They would provide services for the, as far as floodplain management, facility, compliance with FEMA and the city's floodplain regulations. The in-house staff in the past, as we hope this continue, will come in 1 day a week, which in the past has been Wednesday. They will have 1 hour training class for building inspection, engineering, and zoning. In that time, they also review floodplain development permits, elevation certificates, and FEMA letter of map change and provide support services. And they will consult and attend any meetings with regulatory agencies and insurance office specialists. The ongoing management of city plan, city flood management program, they will also facilitate grant applications selected for FEMA hazard mitigation assistance. And kind of summary, manage the city's floodplain management, floodplain program improvements, and manage flood mitigation grant programs.
Very good. This will get us through the end of the budget year. Any comments or questions from you?
Mr. President, Mr. Gilbert, during the last term, did Shoal give the council any studies or surveys during that 5-year period?
Oh, I would believe they have, but I can't say for certain.
Well, I know that I wasn't here during that time, and I know I would like a copy. I don't know about any of the others.
We can provide you what we have.
Thank you.
All right.
Mr. President, were there any grants that were, because you said this is for flood mitigation grant program?
Yeah,
any
I
grants
believe they
awarded
had some
last
FEMA
term?
grants, but again, I don't know that much.
Okay, if I could have more information on what those were and if they were
Okay?
I believe they are also managing some of the homes that qualify to be,
Right.
that
Yeah,
are in a floodplain that can be bought out from the federal government.
Yeah, not just homes, but any properties that fall in that category. Repeat offenders.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, resolution number 879226, accepting change order number 1 and authorizing the mayor execute any and all documents necessary to effectuate the change order for the NCFI addition project. Mr. Miller.
Good evening. Just to answer a question from previously, so some of the FEMA grants, you're exactly right, Dr. Middlebrooks, was the buyout program, the FEMA buyout program. So we've applied for that twice. We've not been selected for any of our houses to date for either of those application pieces. That's the latest update I have on that. So, all right, now we'll move on to the other one.
Just a point of clarity on that. Those are still pending though, right?
The second round are still pending, that's correct.
Okay.
All right, the other item that you have in front of you, I've got it here, the change order for NCFI project. This is the first change order that we have. There's actually 5 different items in there. Total amount is $26,037.21. All of these items come out of the contingency fund that is currently bid in the project, which was $200,000. So with these 5, there would be a $0 change order. There's no additional funds that are needed for it, and would mean that we have $173,962.79 left in the contingency fund for this project.
Very good. Any comments or questions from council? Okay.
Thank you.
Resolution number 879326, authorizing budget amendments for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2026 for the Hoover Fire Department and the Hoover Police Department, and authorizing the mayor to execute any and all documents necessary to effectuate the purchase of equipment and completion of a jail security screening system upgrade. Dr. Lopez.
Good evening. These are 3 items, relatively smaller in amounts. The first one being $10,000 for the LifePack training simulator equipment for the fire department that's coming out of the opioid money. The second one being for the fire department, they had received a contribution from CSX Transportation, so they're going to use that for some grounding and bonding equipment. And that was for $2,500. And then the third item is basically a reallocation from the federal inmate funds to provide additional money for a security screening system at the jail.
Very good. Any comments or questions for Dr. Lopez? Okay, thank you. Resolution number 879426, authorizing the mayor to execute a contract agreement with Pyro Shows of Alabama for a fireworks display. Mr. Pepper.
Good evening, everybody. This is our agreement with Pyro Shows to do our annual Independence Day fireworks show, which will be on July 1st out at the Hoover Met. This is a little larger show than what we've done in the past. This will be a 20-minute show. We'll shoot approximately 250 more shells than in the past. So we're adding a birthday barrage to celebrate America's 250th birthday at the beginning of the show, and then a red, white, and blue scene before the finale. So we'll see how that looks, but it should be a good time.
Any comments or questions for this?
Mr. President, just a quick question. Will this be access inside said stadium, or is it outside like the?
Right now, it's still outside the
It'll
stadium.
be outside, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Pepper.
I've got the next.
Resolution number 8777A26, amending Resolution 877726 for the purpose of waiving performance bond requirements for FanFest contractor Drummer Boy Productions doing business as Martin Sports Properties. Mr. Barnett.
Mr. President, council members, the contractor that you approved last meeting that came afterwards and asked Mr. Pepper to amend the agreement to waive the performance bond. I'm a fan of performance bonds, as I've told your staff, but in this situation, the request was quite reasonable in that you get half your money up front. You do keep, they get half their money up front. You do keep half the proceeds, so you do have some leverage there for performance. Their arguments were that they don't, in their industry, they don't normally provide performance bonds, and if they could waive the expense, they would have, that was their request. And so in this situation, I would not necessarily, I would recommend it in the event that you all are in like mind.
Very good. Any comments or questions, Ms. Driver?
Just a question. What is the nature of the services that Martin Sports would be providing?
So they're bringing basically an entertainment package to the baseball tournament in the form of FanFest. They're going to, they kind of say it as bringing almost a circus, a family-friendly entertainment aspect. So, yeah, they're providing a service to entertain our fans.
I guess my only hesitation on that would be, if they fail to perform, yes, we don't necessarily owe them the second half of their money, but where does that position us with our obligations to the SEC?
A big disappointment if they don't perform. And half the proceeds, you pretty much nailed it. So we would be fighting with their insurance carrier for the bonds to be produced, the bond amount to be produced.
Mr. Schultz?
So we had a long discussion about this on Tuesday when Mr. Peppers called me, and I talked to Mr. Barnett as well, there was no, your question is a very valid question as to where are we, and we were in a situation there where it was a little too late. There was no plan B. So we are either, we agreed to it or he may balk. Is that, did you get that impression?
Yes, sir, I did. I haven't talked to him personally, but I did see his long request and professional request in an email version, and Mr. Pepper can talk to that. But, worst case, they don't perform, they back out at the last minute, and they've gotten their 50% proceeds. We've got the other 50, so we'd be fighting for the 50% that they've already received. So we wouldn't be able to double dip, so to speak, but we would be able to fight to get that 50% back. So we're the 50% of the value is on the line, I guess you could call it.
I'll say real quick, go ahead.
Yeah, so since there's a failure to comply, right? So let's say hypothetically we have a performance bond. They can still fail to comply. What is our secondary go-to in the event that they don't perform? Because either way you're stuck, because you have to go through court proceeds and then you're still not going to have it in time.
Right, it's a contractual, if you're looking for a practical safety net about who helps the Fan Fest at that point,
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's say tomorrow he told us, yeah, I'm not doing this, then I guess our plan B would be to go to the other company who submitted a proposal. Now, the time frame of that, I don't know, even if starting tomorrow, it's going to be a rush for that company to put it together. Let's say a week in advance, he says, I'm not coming, we're definitely in trouble.
Yeah, so, and I get from an operational standpoint, you know, they probably trying to save money and other things they're not doing. Has that second company had any pushback on providing said performance bond, and also can they perform at the same levels?
I am not certain as to whether or not company number two, they haven't said anything to my knowledge, but I don't think that they've had an opportunity to object because as far as they know, they were not selected.
So
Mr. Pepper, can you give us the history of Drummer Boy Productions as far as, I mean, they're a pretty well-established company that have been performing for 25 years, if I'm not mistaken.
They have a history doing Fan Fest performances for Cincinnati Reds and other professional baseball teams, as well as the Boston Bruins and Cleveland Cavaliers, and then like the University of Notre Dame, the University of Michigan. Those were just the ones that were in his proposal, you know, where he showed examples of what he could do. He has been in business for 25 years. He's also been after our business, the Fan Fest, for well over a year. He contacted me before the last tournament wanting to know how he could produce it. And I told him it was a RFP process and that it would be coming out. So he stayed in touch over the year and was patiently waiting. And when the RFP came out, he submitted. He's been here at least once. I think he came twice, kind of on his own dime to see. I think he was here last year during the tournament to kind of see what it looked like. He also attended the pre-bid meeting that was mandatory. And he's coming from, it's not Chicago. I say Chicago every time, but he's out of
Michigan?
Yeah, Michigan, I believe is where it is. So the performance bond was definitely mentioned in the RFP, and he didn't question it. Nobody did in the pre-bid mandatory meeting. But this was the first time that the bond had been included in our RFP process, like it wasn't included the last time. So he has done everything that we've asked him to. He's done the Alabama business license, the Hoover business license. He's turned in all his other credentials that we've asked, but this is just the one thing that he has pushed back on and said that it's not standard in his business.
Mr. Murphy, did you have something else?
I'll follow up with some. I don't want to belabor the point. I'll stand down. I'll yield my time.
Mr. Driver, anything else?
No, I'll also follow up later. Thank you.
Mr. Schultz?
So basically what we had was, this was, and as you know, we brought this to you on Tuesday, which was after the Monday deadline to get it on the agenda due to getting payment to them. And in time, because otherwise it would have been in the second week of April, the next meeting. And so the item before us now is, do we waive the performance bond?
Mr. Barnett, so if I understand correctly, if we proceed with the resolution as it is, this will negate the performance bond. And if they fail to perform, we'll have to go possibly to court to get the money back. If we leave the performance bond in, they could still fail to perform, and that wouldn't protect us as far as the SEC is concerned, but we would have an avenue to get the money back.
Same court process, yes, sir, but would have something else. Would have the bond itself to fall back on.
If they're going to fail to perform, they're going to fail to perform regardless, and we don't have a backup.
I'll also say that he says that, leaving 50% on the table, he feels like that is a bond. And this is a a 2-year agreement with the possibility of extending it for a 3rd year. So if he, takes our money and runs, he's leaving $200,000 more on the table for the next 2 years. So, I mean, he's forfeiting a lot of money.
Mr. President, certainly he would have bid this with the bond cost into the profit margin that he had for his bid, correct?
You would think so, but he says that whenever he was looking at the RFP document, that he read it if the bond was required, and if the bond was required. And honestly, I got on the phone with him, and I'm like, please tell me, pull it up on your computer and tell me where you were looking. And he looked, I don't know, it's a 59-page document, and he found it back on page 52 or something like that. I was like, okay, but look on page 10, number 19.0 says a performance bond is required. So yes, deeper in the document, it said it was in a list and it said if required, but, many pages earlier, it stated that it was required. And to that point, he said, okay, I see that, but it's just not standard in our business. And he said, it feels like that y'all have taken all your RFPs and everything and kind of mushed them together. He's like, that's more common for road builders or people who are doing construction projects that might take years. So he says that we're within a 60-day window and he's ready to get moving.
So if we don't have him, don't require the bond, can we give him the Riverwalk documents and have him read those too?
Probably good punishment.
Just verify this for me from the bidding process, the non-responsive process, and nothing against whoever company, A, B, or C. It was multiple bidders or two, more than one, right? So if one doesn't comply with said bid documents, then we need to make sure it's not an unfair advantage of non-responsive of said bid, which forces you to go to number 2. I just want to just make sure. You legally look at that
And if,
for fact of protesting.
I will say this, that in the event the council waives that contract requirement, then it's valid for this bidder. And, but if he's not going to comply, you could certainly move on. If that's, I mean, if you do not waive it and he says, I'm not going to comply. I hope that answered your question.
Thank you. Perfect.
Any further comments?
How much does such a bond cost?
Depending on obviously the creditworthiness and the financial viability of the company, it could be 0.5% up to 4%. I believe Mr. Munger threw out a possibility of 3 to 5% maybe, or I can't remember that concept, but it's anywhere from
What's the city's credit worthiness?
The city? No, it's not the city.
If for whatever reason we did not require him to get the bond, but we were concerned enough to where the city chose to obtain the bond, or can the city obtain a bond for their?
No, so you could build that into the award if you would, but it would be an insurance contract taken out by the bidder, and so it would be their insurance policy for that purpose, and the premium would again be anywhere from 0.5% up to 6%, depending on.
Would that be enough of a change to require a rebid?
I don't think you have time for a rebid.
I know that, but in a normal aspect, would it normally require a rebid? Where we shouldn't even talk about it?
No, sir. I say that the council can waive that contract requirement for any of the bidders.
Thank you.
Mr. President, this is a new requirement, correct, that hasn't been on previous contracts?
It was not on the FanFest RFP whenever we did it in 2023. I don't know. I know our purchasing department is trying to standardize documents, and so they have added it in there, but it was not in the 2023 RFP request.
Ms. Schultz, do you have anything to add? Okay. Very good. Thank you, Mr. Pepper. One comment or question for council. Is everyone, for now, okay with this remaining on the consent agenda, or should we be prepared to move this to the regular agenda?
I'm fine with it.
Let's move it to the regular agenda.
Ms. Harris? Okay, we will move on to resolution number 879526, approving and assenting to a declaration of vacation of a utility easement located on the property at 250 River Chase Parkway East. Mr. Martin.
Good evening, Council President and Council. This is in conjunction with the platting of the first phase of Riverwalk, the residential sector that Signature Homes is developing on the south end of the property. There's a 30-foot wide easement dedicated for use by Alabama Power that they are seeking to vacate on the property. This was approved as part of the platting for Riverwalk Phase 1 by the Planning Commission earlier in the month. And so it comes to you for final approval.
Very well. Any comments or questions for Mr. Martin? Seeing none, we will move on to Resolution 878326, declaring as a public nuisance the conditions allowed to exist at the property located at 3766 Abbey Glen Way and requiring immediate abatement.
Yes, sir. I believe we had some discussion on this at a previous meeting when we went to approve the final amount for the abatement the last time we were on the site to go place the lien on the property. The property is in a condition where it is out of conformity with our property maintenance code and is a nuisance. And so we, staff, are asking for the council to hold a public hearing and declare the property a nuisance so that we can move on to abating it once again.
Very good. Any comments or questions regarding this item? Thank you, Mr. Martin. All right, we'll have a second reading for ordinance number 262688, an ordinance authorizing Hoover Fire Department to charge a fee for service for cost recovery of non-emergent lift assist responses to Alabama State Licensed assisted living, residential care, nursing facilities, and other healthcare providers within the city of Hoover. Chief, no change from the original first reading and what we covered last time, correct? Any comments or questions from
Yes, sir.
council?
Chief, how did you come up with Paducah, Kentucky being the example that you wanted to use?
Chief, you got to come down.
Thank you, Mr. Council, Mr. President, Council. If I'm not mistaken, that's where the ambulance billing company that we use, that's where they're headquartered out of.
All right.
Is that it? Okay. Thank you.
All right, moving on for immediate consideration for ordinance number 262693 to amend Chapter 16, Article 2, Section 1613 of the Municipal Code of the City of Hoover to change the time of the meetings. Councilor Schultz.
Yeah, we're asking for the Arts Council to move their start time from 5 to 5:30. Seems to be better for all the members in order to make the meetings.
Very good. Any comments or questions for councilors?
Just a quick question for the clerk. Have we confirmed that doesn't conflict with any other standing meetings that would be used in the same room?
Yeah, she wrote this.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we will set a public hearing for resolution number 878626, granting conditional use approval for the operation of an event venue at the property located at 2084 Valleydale Road. Welcome back.
Yes, sir. This particular item was heard by the Planning Commission, and it comes to you with a positive recommendation. This particular location is approximately 7,500 square feet of interior space. Half of that would be dedicated to the open event space. Roughly the other half is for offices as well as meeting rooms and other ancillary space, back of house space. The Planning Commission, in bringing its recommendation to this body, did have several comments or conditions that they would like placed on approval for conditional use. And they are as follows: that the parking and sidewalk are to meet the latest accessibility requirements. 2, improvements to the driveway access are to be made in accordance with the traffic analysis that was submitted with the application. Three, the plans for site improvements are to be produced by a civil engineer and submitted for permitting. And then finally, the applicant would obtain a business license prior to opening. This location is within the PC Planned Commercial District of River Chase Planned Unit Development. And the comprehensive plan supports employment center, office, light industrial types of uses in this vicinity.
Mr. Martin, as an event venue, so I'm assuming people will be able to rent this out for parties, weddings, and so forth. I looked at this on Google Maps. It's not a huge parking lot there. So is there ample parking for an event space like this?
There is, in our analysis, the actual space that would be dedicated to the open event portion of the site is approximately 3,500 square feet. And the occupant load, the maximum occupancy for that portion of the space is 179 occupants per the building code. And so when we went through the application, the analysis that was put to it, given the 179 occupants for the open event space, that would require 63 parking spaces. And in addition to that, the general office back of house functions carry a one space per 250 square feet of office floor area. Taking out any mechanical, bathrooms, and other space, looking at functional space, we came up with 10 required spaces for that component of the site. So total required parking, 73 spaces and 76 are provided on the site. Okay. So it's very close.
Any further comments or questions for Mr. Martin?
Did they provide any examples, Mr. President, of what types of events would be held there?
Primarily, it would be office gatherings, party events, some wedding receptions were also examples that were given. So generally, one-off kinds of special events. Nothing was communicated to us that there would be any kind of regular occurrence, any one particular event occurring there on a recurring basis.
So no type of like owner-occupied situation?
None that we're aware of.
Owner-occupied, yeah.
Mm-mm.
Any further comments or questions?
Some quick, just, and if you don't know it right now, that's fine. What's the capacity of max events? They anticipated they give any capacity numbers?
179 is the occupant load for the event space. 179.
179, but how many vehicles?
Let's see, according to the building code, we've got 0.35 parking spaces per, or 179 times 0.35 to get your 63 required spaces.
Better carpool.
We just need to ask the police department their thoughts. I don't have any more questions.
So that is right next door to a little strip mall there that includes eatery and a salon and so forth. Yeah, most of those are day businesses, right? Is it? So if these are nighttime, then they could possibly move over to there.
The Ragtime Cafe, I know they operate evenings as well.
Okay.
But if there is a need for spillover, there can perhaps be an arrangement made between the two properties.
If the other property does not agree to that arrangement, do we have ample enforcement for people trying to park in Ragtime's parking spaces?
There's no
That would be a private property matter.
Okay, very good. All right.
I have is the applicant in the packet?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Janine Bailey and a partner of hers.
Any further comments on this item? We'll move on to ordinance number 262689 to adopt a revised zoning map of Hoover.
Yes, sir. We adopted a physical zoning map several years ago, back in 2023. As per state code, we're required to have that one physical official map that is on display and is amended as the city council adopts ordinances rezoning properties from time to time. That physical map has been revised a number of times since 2023. In addition to that, the wear and tear on the map itself from hanging at the Public Safety Center renders it in condition that we would like to retire that particular map and go with a new one. So I will note that the new revised official zoning map that we are bringing for your consideration does not include any rezoning of property as indicated on that map itself. It is a timestamp of the zoning as it is today and would be amended as the council chooses to approve rezonings going forward.
Mr. Martin, this is for an oversized map, correct?
That's correct.
Is it possible to include an additional one for use here at City Hall? I know, I think council would appreciate being able to view that map at times and have it in one of our offices.
I think we can work something out.
Any further comments or questions for Mr. Martin on this item?
I will say that we'll have to take care, this being the official map. It is the one that our office will certainly be amending as the city council rezones property over time. So I don't know, I may defer to legal how we need to handle a second map. I would hate for there to be confusion.
It would be behind, it would also hopefully be amended at the same time, but that one over there at the Public Safety Center would be the official, and here would just be a working copy, if you will, for the city council and others.
Mr. President, isn't this captured on like GIS? Do we update in GIS?
Yes.
Would it be better to have, maybe you set up a computer, a larger computer that if it's questions about it, we can look on that, or maybe have access to a read-only file?
Yes, sir.
Now, I'm not taking away from still needing visible maps, because I like paper. I'm not a paper tiger, but still have it set up right there so it's real time.
Yeah, I'm a librarian. I still like the paper.
Like paper?
I like the paper.
I'm just saying, but real time, you know if it's changed or not. Paper changes by the day.
Yeah.
Our GIS team does an excellent job of updating the GIS side as we have zoning amendments come along. So it should be the latest and greatest.
Any further comments or questions? All right, Mr. Martin, you're still up. Ordinance number 262694, amend ordinance number 263, the City of Hoover, Alabama, entitled The Zoning Ordinance of the City of Hoover, Alabama for the property located at 3269 Monte d'Oro Drive to be zoned to R1 Single Family Residential District.
Yes, sir. This is a property that was annexed into the city. It is currently not zoned. It is used for single-family residential purposes, and we are at this time asking for the property to be zoned R1 rather than just hanging out there without a zoning designation. The R1 district would be in line with the neighboring property zoning as well as the use of this site.
When was this annexed?
It's been several years ago.
Because now we do a pre-zoning before we annex, correct?
In a lot of cases, we do, not in every case.
Very good. Any other comments or questions?
I was just going to clarify, I believe, if I remember right from planning and zoning, this one and number 20 were annexed in 2019.
That's correct.
So there was some sort of an oversight that those did not get zoned between then and now.
That's right. And in response to your inquiry at the Planning Commission meeting, our GIS team did go back and do a thorough review of all of the properties that are still showing as not zoned. And so we do have a master list now of all of those properties. Of the properties that are not zoned, there are, in addition to the two that we're going to be taking care of, this one on Monte d'Oro and the one on Shelterwood Circle, There are 3 that have been annexed but not zoned during my tenure. One of them is a single-family residence on South Shades Crest Road that I anticipate being in front of the Planning Commission next month. The other 2 are going to need some additional discussion. One of them is the Baines Bridge property that the city owns. And at least under the previous administration, there was some hesitancy to throw that into one of our non-residential districts because the idea was we were wanting to more narrowly tailor what was allowed to take place on that site rather than the open-endedness of some of our zoning districts that are non-residential in nature. Haven't had a chance to have that conversation with economic development here recently, but that is one that would anticipate in the not too distant future, as soon as we determine what zoning district is best for the city's long-term vision for that site. And the other is the River Chase Country Club, the golf course. That was annexed in 2023. It is in the middle of, and functionally, I would say, a part of a planned unit development. So at least my thinking would be we would need to amend that planned unit development to bring the golf course into River Chase. But it is something that I would like to confer with our legal counsel just to make sure we have the right process for doing that.
Very good. For this individual home, 2019, man, I wonder what that previous council was thinking when they just... Mr. Smith, do you have any idea what happened?
I need a little more detail. Maybe we could find the minutes.
All right, moving on to ordinance number 2691, to amend ordinance number 263, the City of Hoover, Alabama, entitled the zoning ordinance of the City of Hoover, Alabama, for the property located at 204 Shelterwood Circle, being zoned from R1 Single Family Residential District to RLSF Legacy Single Family District.
Okay, this particular case involves a property whereby the owner is looking to add an unenclosed but covered front porch on the front of their home. That particular front porch would encroach on the 35-foot setback off of the front property line that is established in the R1 district. The RLSF, Legacy Single Family Residential District, still has a 35-foot front setback for the enclosed portion of the house, but does make an allowance for 10 feet of encroachment into the front setback for an unenclosed covered front porch. This particular zoning district was crafted because we had a number of cases coming up, particularly in the Bluff Park area, older developed portions of town, where homeowners were looking to reinvest, update their homes. A lot of the building stock there did not include, architecturally speaking, front porches. And so that has become quite a trend as far as those reinvesting in the property to add front porches. And we were running up against a situation where the zoning was not permitting that. So just my general practice, if you have an item coming up, there is a trend in your community and it's causing a number of requests for variances to your development criteria in the zoning ordinance, maybe it's time to take another look at the zoning ordinance. And so with the number of requests that we were getting to the BZA for variances to allow front porches, that triggered us to go and look at the zoning ordinance to see if there was a solution we could come up with in our zoning that could handle this particular trend. And so that's where the Legacy Single Family District was born. It was tailor-made for this particular application.
Very good. Any comments or questions regarding this item?
Mr. Martin, looking at the house itself, was the house just built too close to the 35 feet? Because the encroachment doesn't look to be that big.
The encroachment in this particular case would be about 5 feet, between 5 and 6 feet into the setback if you were to add a front porch. This particular case came to the BZA, and for timing's sake, they asked to continue.
At the house?
Yes, sir. That's it. Part of the reason that there's a bit of a optical illusion, if you will, on the setback. That particular property is right at the beginning of a cul-de-sac. So the road flares out and the front setback goes along with the edge of the cul-de-sac. So that's where they were running into issues. They did receive a variance to go ahead and start construction with the intent that they would apply for the rezoning, and they've made good on that promise.
Very good. Any other comments from council? All right, what about you back row Baptists back there? I see some of you nodding off back there. I know, all this zoning talk. All right, final one, ordinance number 262690, an ordinance to amend ordinance number 263 to City of Hoover, Alabama, entitled the zoning ordinance of the City of Hoover, Alabama for the property located at 3236 Pinehurst Drive being zoned to R1 Single Family Residential District.
This is the same scenario that we had in item number 18, previously annexed property. It's not zoned presently, and this would zone it to R1 in keeping with the neighborhood and the use on the site.
Very good. Any comments or questions regarding this item? All right, we're at the end of the agenda. Any comments or questions from council before we adjourn?
Mac, before you leave, how old is the master plan now?
It is 7 years. We adopted it, or our planning commission adopted it in 2019.
Yeah, originally it was going to come to the council, and some point along the way, when the council started having questions, they took that part out. How often does that kind of a plan, does it get revisited and reviewed?
Preferably, just our practice as planners, we would have that up for consideration every 5 years to look at it, review it thoroughly. I know particularly in the past 5 to 7 years, we've had some pretty major changes, COVID and a lot of other things that may very well skew the numbers as far as the economic analysis that went into it and so on and so forth. So our recommendation as certified planners would be every 5 years.
So this term, at least, if not within the next 12 to 18 months.
That would be my recommendation.
Thank you, sir. There's something else for you, Mr. President?
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? All right, we're adjourned.